Hey everybody. So yesterday I implemented the concept of our um, descriptor, the property descriptor, the animation property descriptor, and basically that was I explained why I named it that way and all that, and then um, as we've gotten to this spot, what became clear is my original vision of being able to manipulate the animations from the meshes or the lights and management didn't make any sense anymore. So like I initially had the idea that I was gonna, you would be able to like, I don't know, expand this or something like that, and then in here you would control that, or maybe there'd be a pop up or something like that. And it became pretty obvious to me that that wasn't gonna fly. So then, I was kind of struggling yesterday with okay, what are the next steps? And I talked about doing stuff in the animation, and then like yesterday, I was kind of thinking that like in this animation, you'd see all of the meshes, and then it became obvious to me you probably should only see meshes and lights that are being animated in this area, and it probably didn't make sense to mark them as animated here. It probably made sense to mark them as animated here. So maybe when you open this, there's a checkbox or something that says animate, and maybe, but probably by default they're not animated or vice versa. It doesn't really matter. That'll be super simple. Uh, no real wrong decisions in that. But anyway, so you would mark it here, and then you could come over here, and then you would be able to do animation stuff to it. And I think that makes a lot of sense. I like that idea a lot. So what that led to was, well, I was going to need to do work at meshes, so I could add this extra property in the meshes and then add the checkbox. And I thought, okay, so sorry, I've put off doing the upgrade long enough. If I'm leaving the animation set of code, I need to go over and like focusing on the meshes section of code. This is a good time to do, and there really is never a good time, but this is probably the time to do the minor upgrade that I was talking about. So I did that, and and I do want to say, just make a point that like most companies are not agile. They might have their development team as agile, but their design team and uh, their BAs and their QAs and all that are not agile, and that has been called Wa-gile-fall, and that's because everything feeding this agile team is waterfall. They're setting up all their designs ahead of time. They're coming up with all their requirements ahead of time and all that, and then like director level and above people are signing off on these, and then this whole giant package is being delivered to the development team to work. And then as the development team develops, they start figuring out that um, oh wow, that didn't make sense. Oh, it would be better to do it this way. It would be better to do it that way. And then that kicks off a whole bunch of like problems, because a lot of times the designers aren't even around anymore. They've all been let go, and you have a bunch of product people trying to sort of use some tool to just sort of alter the existing designs, and they don't even really understand the original sort of artistic intent of the designs, and it is just a mess. And then what happens on the other side is you get QA, and they don't want to sign off until everything is till they can see how everything works together. And so a lot of times they won't get the final sign off until the product team reviews all what the QA people have found, and then they finally bless it, and then it gets marked off. So that that is so already 5.5 minutes in, so this is going to be long. Sorry, but so that is the problem, right? The problem is that you have like this. Like one time I used to have this I have an electric lawnmower that is like a battery operated, and original one was like a works, which was built from the ground up to be battery operated, and it's really nice. It only weighs like 40 pounds. It doesn't make much noise. You can mow it like at two in the morning. You're not gonna bother your neighbors and stuff like that. And then I got another one, and basically all it was a battery. sitting on top of a original old fashioned metal lawnmower, and that thing was garbage. It didn't work at all. It worked, but it was really, really inefficient. It weighed like what a thing, what a regular one costs. It was constantly breaking. It just wasn't any good. And now I have like a Ryobi, and it's just like back to everything was designed to be battery operated. The concept of having an a waterfall BA and all the inputs going into your development team, and then waterfall QA of everything coming out just messes everything up. It's a disaster because you end up with everybody trying to make merges at the exact same. You have git commit problems with conflicts because everybody's working on the same stuff at the same time. It's a disaster. So, anyways, that's a rant, and it's probably I've probably ranted about this before, and I'm sure I'll rant about it again. So, anyways, I'll get to it. So, in the so I changed this to 17.32. Historically, what I did last time was I actually walked through the steps. These steps were identical. It was super simple. Basically, all I had to do was I did this ng update, and then when I did the update, it told me that these are the four commands I needed to run, and then I added these four commands. I tried to run this cdk. That failed because it said I needed to have everything committed. So I committed everything, and then I ran CDK, and it failed because it wanted material. And that is confusing because CDK is part of material. It's not part of Angular proper. So material is required before you do the CDK. But then I realized, you know what? It actually makes sense to run the CLI first. So I ran the CLI, and that made a lot of sense. That makes sense, right? Like, why would you not run the CLI first? And then, like, if just from a common sense perspective, it makes sense that the core would be the next one you'd run. So I went to run. Well, so I went to run the CLI, and then it complained that I needed to commit everything. So then I ran the core. So then I committed everything, and I ran the CLI again. It worked fine. I ran the core. It worked fine. Oh, I tried to run the core, and it complained about the committing. So I committed, ran the core, worked fine. Committed, ran material, worked fine, and then ran CDK, and I believe I didn't have to do any committing on those two, but maybe I did. I'm not sure. And then, like, if you look at the dependencies, they were all upgraded, and it was nice and clean. And then I restarted, and then I look. This is very important to do. You want to look, and you just want to make sure that this says the right version. If it There have been times where I've been confused and thought that I had successfully upgraded, but then when I looked at this, it said it was the old one, and I needed to stop and restart and everything, and then it failed. There was like code that it was not happy with. Um, I did not change any of the actual code, so I went in later because I know that we want to change from these decorator outputs, which were our RxJS, to these new outputs, which are signals based. And I got that working, and I was very, very pleased. I thought for sure that this emit thing would have to be done in some other way, but no, everything worked super duper clean. I was really happy. So I redid that I basically did a search of all the code, redid that over here, and that worked. So yeah, here we are. We are at the latest. I noticed that there is a alpha version out there of 18. I'm not sure what's coming in 18. I will probably wait until the 18 actually drops and is ready to roll before I attempt to update to that. Probably won't be too bad. Um, I found that like they don't what like 17 was a monster, I think, for any existing code bases. Um, and then they will probably wait a couple more before they do another big one that has a ton of breaking changes in it. Um, but and I think they are very, very occupied with signals right now. So that was the thing. I did definitely want to reiterate this Wa-gile-fall is a disaster everywhere I work. It's extraordinarily um, disruptive, and it creates some really strange things from a psychological perspective for the everybody involved. Um, and it does it makes a really it makes it very scary to make changes, architectural changes, um, because especially if you have multiple teams, because the other people are probably working on things and you're very likely to like literally destroy an entire section of code that somebody is actively working, and they will have no good way of merging their code into your new changes. So you kind of set up just a very natural paralyzing thing. The other thing is, doing these updates are definitely easier. And they're very, very important to keep up with. If you fall behind, you will. This is not like back end where you can do an update and then you can go out there and figure out that something's um, wrong, and then because the platform. See, that's the basic difference. On the front end, you do not control the platform that the code is going to be executed in. The user does. The user chooses which browser they're using, which version of which browser they're using, and you don't have any control over that, and or even which device they're using. With backend, the backend developers control, like, oh, okay, this is going to be running on this kind of server or in this cloud configuration, and we're going to have this version of Node or Java or .NET running in the back end, and we're going to have this version of this database. Like, they have full control over the platform, but on the front end you don't, and you have no choice. Sooner or later, the browsers are going to change and they're going to do what they want to do, and you have to go with them. You are not the leader in the dance. You're the follower in the dance when you're on the front end. And so the sooner that you can learn the new steps, the better. You don't get to decide what the steps are. You react to what the new steps are. And the browsers are generally set up to give you like a lag time where they'll support past stuff for a little while, but then they, like, out of nowhere, will just dump support, and it'll literally hit you at the worst times. So the sooner you can get this, whatever the new thing is, the sooner you can get away from these event emitters and RxJS and all this stuff, and the sooner you can get over to signals, the better. There is no benefit to waiting, to say, oh, okay, well, I'm just gonna wait until the signals have been around for 2 years before I decide to do it. By the time 2 years is gone, you have so much front end code using this old stuff that you won't. It'll be very, very difficult. Now, this isn't bad, but that's the reality. I am 13 minutes in. This was a full rant. Um, Code. We didn't actually get any code, but next time I'm 99% sure I'm going to add a checkbox in here, and then you can control which meshes are moving and which ones aren't, which I think will be a huge step forward on when it comes to making uh, new new animations, because then I can have little lights staying stagnantly in place, and I can set things up so have the shadowing and all that will be cool. And maybe I can have something on the ground that isn't moving, and so then we can see the shadows of these moving across, and that'll be super, super cool. Anyways, happy coding, and bye.